financial situation is, and no one cares. And you know that house probably is worth a lot of money. Okay, it's a good reason to downsize. But as you get older, you're much older, you're gonna realize that the walk to go.
I know that.
You don't know that. And there's a value to it. And you can
I don't have to give up something in the process.
wife. Sometimes I say that. Is that coffee ready, Ed?
The red light is not on yet.
Let's call you ready.
Smoke's coming out of the top, so the odds are.
The smoke's coming in. I think it's steam. It's smoke we're really sure.
Let's see what kind of donuts.
I run these in
Same stuff. Same Hazarai.
Oh,
We got Valentine's Day.
I can't believe you did that.
Valentine's Day. You can't believe it. It says love on it.
I think it's right outside. It's right out here. Next week they'll have to do
The footballs, yes.
Surprised they didn't have anything with it like an Olympic shape.
Probably not tuned in for that.
Well, oh wow, I see we have balloons for the share this morning.
I think it's in honor of Valentine's Day.
Oh, Harvey, you're gonna get in trouble.
By who?
It's one thing that we hold of Mother's Day. We also want to get involved in Valentine's Day. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
I got some pushback on those flowers. that I used to
I
do.
remember.
Huh?
Good times. Good times.
That's one of the few cases where becoming Orthodox is saving money.
You think,
Don't observe Valentine's Day anymore.
I would kill it.
No, but you should be buying
Yes.
flowers every Shabbos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a question more, not less.
Flowers on Mother's Day,
It's always the
violated,
cheap
you see by philosophy.
Nah. Flowers on Mother's Day? Nah. That's fine.
I'll buy my wife flowers. I just wish to forget about it.
I used to buy like 5 flowers every time, 3,000-4,000. And,
Then you found out after 10 years that she was actually really allergic and
no, she finally told me, I was the one who put them in the vase, I was the one who had to take care of them, I was the one who had to arrange them, and she just didn't have any appreciation for them. So I stopped getting them. I wasn't serious,
But how long did it take you to find it out?
she was like,
How long did it take you to figure that out?
her me.
That she didn't appreciate that.
2 weeks.
How much your friends are.
I save $10 every week now. I like your, you gotta eat the pink ones and the white ones. I can't bring those to your house.
No, of course you could.
I can't,
Why?
because how will you know that I'm bringing Valentine's donuts to your wife?
You bring it to my kids. It's okay.
I'm not so sure. Don't worry.
Okay, he's taking care of you?
Nice.
Please take
Like,
it.
it took about a month to find that out.
One of our nicer rooms in the
No access to like,
for
you spend much time on the flower and I just. Sounds like maybe why hawking so much about the flowers? Obviously you don't care.
Sharon, you buy flowers for your wife?
No, she has the same comment. She told me, like, after the first couple of weeks, like, you spend way too much time talking about flowers. Like, okay, forget it. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything. Like, I was like, yeah, nice.
Gerald, do you buy flowers for your wife?
I did for on and off, you know, but for quite a long time.
You buy jewelry for your wife?
I will only buy jewelry for my wife if I go with her to buy it. Because
I disagree.
surprise is a very nice thing, but 9 times out of 10, you're better off having her there and letting her get what she wants.
See, I disagree with that. I think a husband should be able to surprise his wife.
My father used to do
And
that.
I hope they would be smart enough
My
to
dad-
say how lovely it is. I was in New York once. I saw
My dad had been in the jewelry business for a while during the Depression. So he, whenever he went somewhere, he used to, like in New York City, he was like, get her something, you know.
So I was once in New York, and I saw a beautiful piece of window, and I went in, and I bought it, and I have a mahala that, jewelry's half a match necklace.
That's your stick.
That's my mishigas.
I hear it.
Huh?
I hear what you're saying.
So, and they all leave to be V-shaped.
No, I'm beyond that. So I bought her this necklace and this, set of earrings that match. And in my, I like things that are unique, different,
Just like
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this was it was a gorgeous necklace in my eyes. And I spent a lot of money on it. I brought it home, she did not like it at all.
There you go.
I could not return it. So,
Yeah, it's like if you buy a watch.
That's what I said, I'm better
usually
off going
count
to the store with her than surprising her.
so she didn't wear it for like 2-3 years, maybe more. And finally she put it on once, and she went to show.
And everybody said how
And
beautiful it
she
was.
got like 3, 4, 5 compliments.
That's right, now she fell in
Right?
love with it.
Now she liked it a little bit.
Yeah,
So she wore it again a few weeks later, and again she got compliments on it.
there you go.
But I think a husband, listen to this advice, I think a husband should have the ability to buy their wife a surprise present. And if she doesn't like it, let her fake it. That's my,
Well, I don't know about the fake.
come on.
Fake.
What is she gonna do? She's gonna tell you I don't like it?
She'll tell
And then
you,
what?
Yeah,
she'll tell you I
and
want
then
it.
you go back and get something else.
That takes away the whole feeling of being able to give someone something, the schmuck.
Right.
If she tells you what it is, here's my credit card, just go do what you want. And that's what we end up doing. Anniversaries, she never bought me anything I liked, I never bought her anything she liked. You know what we do on an anniversary? We exchange credit cards. You buy what you want, I'll buy what I want, I pay for both cards, it doesn't matter. And then, a little crazy, huh? It's okay, it's not so bad. I once went to Debbie, so we were gonna buy a birthday present for Debbie, so we were gonna buy her an outfit, right? So we go to Macy's, and the lady, the women's section of the Macy's, looking for a dress.
Never buy my wife.
She says, what size you need? I said, I don't know, but she says, is she bigger than me? Or smaller than me?
You need to look in your wife's dress and see what size.
I understand, I'm not so
That's a
smart.
good sense person, because she actually asked you that. Because some of them would have just.
I would never, ever.
So we actually bought a dress, and she actually liked it a lot. She really did. So that, I don't know what happened there, but,
I don't know what happened. It was,
Huh?
I don't know, it was an anomaly. Yeah. I don't know.
went to the borough park. Debbie asked me, I had to pick up something. She asked me to pick up something from a woman's shop. Okay? Which
Did
is,
they let you in the door?
they let me in the door. And
Boy, I can't
You were ahead
recall
just
that.
with the
And the
money.
lady, so I forgot what it wasn't a dress or anything like that. And so the lady says, I'll put it on for you so you can see how it looks on a person. So she put it on. Right? I don't know.
I would never hazard to get my wife.
You never was?
I've never hazarded to buy her clothing. No, I wouldn't. If she, a lot of times what happens is we go shopping, she asks me for the credit card.
We'll go to Israel, she likes it, my clothes there. And I go with her.
Don't frum women make trips to Borough Park once a year or something to buy clothing, something like that.
But I will always pick out something unique and different, and well, sometimes she actually likes it. I just like things that are different.
Easy,
What can I tell you?
you're unique and different, Marty.
Depends who you compare me to. If you compare me to Rebecca here, it's not so much.
We're twins, literally twins.
My wife says, after I was born, they threw away the mold.
They cracked it is what they did. They really make sure to get rid of it.
Or cracked on, cracked on.
You're not crazy, you know how crazy I am, I'll tell you how crazy I am. There's a kid in Children, there's a guy in Children coming every morning, and the down from the other ones, right, I went over to him, I said, you got nicely, okay? Which I think is a nice thing to do. Well, it turns out he's single, he's 25, and that's what he's looking for. And what do you have an idea for him? What do you have an idea for him?
I think there's,
Because people don't go after people they don't know and do those kind of things. And it's wrong.
It's only because they're embarrassed.
Huh?
It's only because they're embarrassed. The kids are embarrassed.
Who's embarrassed?
When you see someone come to shul on a regular basis, and no one says anything to them, you should go over and say hello.
Yeah.
Because as hard as it is for you, it's much harder for them.
And you know this kid, I came over there and said, you really down most of our house colors?
yeah, you go over
You really
to
down
them,
nicely? I said, well, I
you go over to
appreciate
them and say, excuse me, but I think you're sitting in my seat.
Right.
That's how you know you're in an Orthodox shul.
Right. And if you want to be really nice about it, you get someone else to tell them that they're going to
I
say.
think you're
Right.
sitting in my
It is
friend's
seat.
seat.
I know it's different. I think you gave a share on that. What's Rabbi here?
Seats, chazak on seats.
On Mucking Kavod. I hope, I came to show the guy said, is this someone's seat? It was 9 o'clock. I said, if that person is not here by 9 o'clock and davening starts, and he holds that as Mucking Kavod, more important than davening, he's got a problem. You can sit there. That's my philosophy. What do you say? You agree or disagree?
If I'm the guy who's coming early, I definitely agree with you.
If what?
If I'm the guy who's coming early, I definitely agree with you.
This is your word. You agree with me or disagree? The guy's not there at 9 o'clock. How important is a muffin cooler?
I think you should at least give a little bit of leeway.
I did. I gave him from 8 to 9 to get there early.
What time does he start at, 9 or
9 o'clock.
I give it to 9:15.
Yeah, I have another philosophy.
So you think that a person enjoys a makom kavua, that he wants to down in that seat? It's the other way. He enjoys a makom kavua, they could kick a guy out from the seat.
I have another philosophy. Davening's at 9 o'clock. You didn't start davening at 9 o'clock sharp. God comes by and says, okay, Shari Tefillah davens at 9 o'clock, or Yeshiva starts at 8:15. Oh, they didn't start yet? Okay, goodbye. I'll move on.
I thought
Yeah,
that,
you just moves on. You
correct me
stick
if I'm
around.
wrong, but I thought.
Wait for it.
How does Eliyahu handle that on Pesach night? When he has to go-
That if you're.
It's each house, right?
Of davening, you have four.
Somehow he manages
For
it.
that particular
That's
section.
a different thing.
I don't know.
And God can get managed too, but comes to the shul at 9 o'clock. What? You didn't start? You're just schmoozing? I'll move on. Hey, Shepard, you don't agree with that?
I'll let you know.
And by the way,
I'll let you know when I get there.
I'm always late to show. I'm a huge procrastinator, and next week, I'm coming out with my 2021 predictions.
Yeah, no one's predicted what happened in 22.
Yeah, but it's 22 now, so it's not
I'm
predictable.
procrastinating.
Just procrastinate.
No, there you go. It's a joke.
We have specials
I'll
on.
let you know when I get there on time.
Are you giving predictions on the Super Bowl?
Yes,
One of the teams is going to win.
Cincinnati's gonna win,
It's gonna take place.
because if Los Angeles wins, it's gonna turn into a big political statement.
What's the political state?
It's in California, it's in
Play the games in California.
I know some sports trivia.
I think actually.
That the Rams franchise originally was.
It's only a virtual game only, right?
If you're triple vaccinated within 3 months,
See, that-
we're double
You know what
masked.
that means? Nobody really wants to live in Cleveland. They were in Cleveland from 1936 to 1945.
Who's that?
The Rams.
Oh, they done it with St. Louis, didn't they?
No, then they moved to Los Angeles. And then they got into a dispute with, they wanted a stadium, okay? And St. Louis had lost the Cardinals.
Arizona.
Right. So they offered to build a stadium for them. And they, you know, the loyalty of these teams, you know, and that was a rumor, you know, when Los Angeles didn't have a franchise for a while. The rumor was that the Jets were going to move to Los Angeles. That was a rumor.
It's a long time to have two teams sharing the same, the same stadium, Jets and Giants.
Right.
It's a very long time. Usually sooner or later, one of them goes back.
Well,
Can have any one of those.
anyway, this guy Flores, he filed this lawsuit,
Yeah.
okay? And I think he's going to be countersued for defamation. By, what's that guy's name, Ross, the guy that owns the Dolphins?
Yeah.
Jewish guy?
You made a mistake.
He's gonna sue him for defamation.
What happened?
Calling the team, you know, calling them a racist organization. I think, you know, look, they fired him with a 9-8 record. You know, I mean, it's not so bad, but, you know, I mean, after 3 years, you couldn't get them into the playoffs.
They lost 7 games in a row. Granted, he won.
Yes, they lost 7 games in a row, and then they won like
8 games in a row.
8 games in a row.
What does that say?
I don't know. I don't know what it says.
If you're losing, then you're winning, I mean, then you're doing the
You
right
know how
thing.
hard it is to win games in the
If it's the other way around, if you win 8 in a row and then you lose 7 in a row, now you're on a
A lot
downward
of times that
trajectory.
game is decided
Makes
by a
sense.
field goal,
Right,
okay?
okay.
It's very difficult to win games in the NFL. It's not easy.
Yeah, every week somebody does.
And every week someone loses too.
Yeah. Right here, in this yeshiva world, there's dedication by the Rebbeim. Don't see free agent contracts where they go to a different yeshiva after 4 years or something like that.
That's because another yeshiva is not offering bigger money.
Right, nobody's, look, don't they have an unwritten rule that they don't bid against each other? Usually, like for Rabbanim, that's true, you know, for congregation. Nobody ever goes out and what happens is steal rabbis away from other shuls. I've never heard of it. It happens?
I think it happens. I think it happens. Like,
You have to know who could ask the question, tampering.
It does happen, but not that often.
good morning. Because we have these fantastic Valentine donuts.
I mean, downtime.
Valentine. You don't know what that means.
You know, Harvey is in Yeshiva Bacher, he wouldn't know anything about this.
Come on, you know, I think the general.
We're sheltered here in Yeshiva.
The general society here does filter down, doesn't it?
Very convenient, like all these.
Remember the definition?
On sale right after a event.
Collecting for a,
I guess,
President Day?
Because you like chocolates and heart shapes are your thing. Right
Yes.
after.
I went to public school. You get
Like, it's like, like
glass
that
of
whole tree,
you know,
Valentine's Day, a vote is Zara.
Good question.
I don't.
But not today's topic, hold on. Good morning. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. You know, I did pick a topic which is timely, maybe not your topic, but a timely topic. Adar Rishon is here, and today's share is entitled Unmasking Adar Rishon. Go into understanding the halachas of this very unique month. And I think the best way to begin share is with, I'm not sure you call it a riddle, but a question. Is anyone invited to a bar mitzvah in the next couple of weeks? Next few weeks? No?
Nope.
Anyone going to bar mitzvah? Answer is, if you're going to bar mitzvah, it's fake news. There are no bar mitzvahs this month. 0. Why?
13 years ago.
13 years ago, there was only one Adar. This year, being a leap year, there's 2 Adars. And since we say, as we're going to go through soon, that when it comes to bar mitzvahs, you go by Adar Sheni. So any kid born 13 years ago is going to be bar mitzvah next month. So we're talking about Rabbanim. Rebbeim have a reprieve. There is no bar mitzvahs for the next month. I know someone who went to bar mitzvah this past Shabbos, but that was a nidcha. The family pushed off the bar mitzvah. I think someone else in the community was being bar mitzvah, so they pushed it off a week. But really, there should not be any real bar mitzvahs this entire month, all based on the fact that this year is a leap year. Yes?
The opposite effect when it's 13 years after a leap year and it's not a leap year. That's a guy's nightmare.
Oh, yes. So, Mr. Mayor, if you are 100% right, if 13 years ago was a leap year and this year would not have been a leap year, so you're cramming 2 months worth of bar mitzvahs into 1 month, you're right. It makes problems for Gabayim, for party planners, the works. Yes. That's not so simple.
You can do really weird things, like the kid who was born on the first Adar,
Yes.
towards the end of the month, actually has a problem after
So
the kid.
I gave a share once about Adar, a few years back. Actually, it was no deal. My son was born in Adar Rishon, my son Mordechai, my son Halacha too. But the year that Mordechai was bar mitzvahed, there was only one Adar. And he had the phenomenon where someone who was born after him actually was bar mitzvah before him. He was literally almost a month older than someone else. That person got bar mitzvah before him. That's, I'll call it, for you, Harvey, oddities.
What was that again?
Other oddities or oddities?
People listen to this tape.
You're right, it's a little dangerous. But they all seem having a good time. So, today's share is not to go through all the weird oddities itself about Chodesh Adar, but rather what I'd like to focus on is understanding the real practical halachas and what's it based on. I think the first area to really delve into is the area of yurtzites. And that gives, I think, an interesting perspective.
My father was nifter on Shushan corn cut.
Oh, okay. So your father was nifter in a leap year in Adar Aleph.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so this comes up a lot. And we have Gabayim here, and there are major hawks that comes up with yurtzites, so many different areas regarding this. And before we even begin the halachas, it's very important to always point this out. Anytime we deal with yurtzites, one of the biggest fights you could have in shuls are regarding yurtzites. We were talking before this year about seats. I dare say the fights about yurtzites and davening for the Amud could be bigger fights than even people fighting for seats. You're sitting in my seat. And the reasoning obviously behind it emotionally is people have this fixation that I have to daven for my parent, grandparent,
I love that one.
Relative, and it can literally be, very vehement, rough interactions people have trying to get to the Amud. And it's very kedai to know, I believe many Gedolim were fond of this practice, that many times it's a greater mitzvah to pass up the tefillah, pass up the Amud, let someone else down for the Amud, and that would be a tremendous eloi for the neshama of the person that you would be davening for, than to get into any type of fight. It's a very big inyan to try to avoid fights in this area. Yes?
It's a little more than that. If you're getting in an argument over it, you're no longer really qualified to be leading the seat.
Okay, yeah, again with the technicality.
That raises,
Some are saying, yeah, if a person's really a rough character, they doesn't necessarily qualify to be the Shliach Tzibur. Yeah, not so simple.
Rabbi, many people believe that a parent's yahrzeit has priority over everybody else. But I don't, if I'm wrong, but I don't think that that's.
So, it depends, right. You know, they're all different,
I think that has priority.
yeah, they're all different debates. I'm not going to go into all the lists of priorities, who gets what, and we're not just talking about the Amud, also there's no aliyos. People insist on getting aliyos before yahrzeits. And it gets heated. And therefore today, I think if we have more clarity in the halachas of yahrzeits regarding this month of Adar, the easier it will be for people to renege, people to give up, and pass on the aliyos, the amma, to other people. So if you look, I think this is what we found, in Shulchan Aruch Arakayim Sim Tov Kuf Samaches. Okay, I would like to go through the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishabura here inside. I think it's very insightful. And then we'll jump to other areas beyond yahrzeit. So let's start with yahrzeit. Parents' yahrzeit is in Adar, and it's a leap year. So we know there's a concept, which we'll talk about soon, about fasting on the yahrzeit of a parent. So the Mechaber writes, Yis'ana ba'adar sheni. You should fast specifically on Adar Sheni. That's what the Mechaber writes. Okay? So when it comes to yahrzeits, the Mechaber is writing, let's go with Adar Sheni. Haga comes along the Ramah. The Yeshom and the Nisyan Rishon. The Ramah writes, no. Others say, fast Adar Rishon. Classic. You have a question. Mechaber goes one way, the Ramah goes the other. He just gives an exclusion, lo shemes b'shana ze'uber ba'adar sheni, unless it was a case where the person died in Adar Sheni. The oz nogim l'sanas b'sheni. Right? If a person was nifter in the second Adar, then of course no one argues about that. Then of course you keep the second Adar as the yahrzeit. And similarly the other way, like you pointed out before, if a person's relative was nifter in Adar Rishon, it was nifter in leap year, so then you keep in the future Adar Rishon. Right?
Yes.
The debate, the machlokas, Mechaber Ramah, is limited to a case where the year the person was nifter was not a leap year, it was a regular year, and they're nifter in Adar. So when do you observe the yahrzeit? Now this year is a 2-month Adar. Do you go with Adar Rishon? Go with Adar Sheni. So the Mechaber says we go with Adar Sheni. The Ramah says we go with Adar Rishon. The Ramah says this is the minhag. At least the minhag for Ashkenazim. So this is a classic, right here, Machlokas, Ashkenazim, and Svardim. Svardim are going to go with the Mechaber, that they'll observe the yahrzeit, Adar Sheni. Ashkenazim are going to go with, if they understand this Ramah, they're going to follow this Ramah, and they'll go with Adar Rishon. Now the Ramah, though, signs off with an interesting line, Miu yish machnirin lisanas b'shneim. There are some people that say, fast by both. Fast by both. And therefore, the Ramah is saying, I'm paskening, the minhag is with Adar Rishon, but there is some legitimacy to doing it by Adar Sheni. So you know what? Fast by both. So yes, we're going to talk about this. Let me spell this out. There is this inyan of fasting on the day that a person's parent was nifter, and there are different minhagim. There's an idea of tikkun that definitely in the Hasidic world is very big, and like many minhagim that involve food and parties, it spreads from the Hasidic world to the Ashkenazic world, and you can't tell the difference anymore. But so they're in the Hasidic world, they're very into giving tikkun, and people don't fast. There also is an idea of people making a siyam.
I think someone was telling me that it's really Zetal. Really, the tikkun is really just a super for the siyam.
Oh, that's really it should be.
And the siyam, it's you don't have to fast because there's some other times before.
Right. But Rabbi Shafran, I was spelling it out the way it practically comes about. Right? There are some that do tikkun without a siyam. There are some that have it spread with a siyam, and the fact the person making a siyam, it's a Baal Simcha, so he doesn't fast. But there are those that fast. I was just with a Yid this past week who just went through his father's yurtzeit, and he fasted.
I also, this last week we did halfway. This week we did both the season and the
He done to the halfway. Okay, good.
But
I saw a wonderful sefer, Sione Halachos, from Rabbi Zion Cook, very close Talmud of Rabbi Yosef. And the way he records it, he doesn't just list Rabbi Yosef's psakim, he gives you the actual wording of the back and forth. This person asked that, Rabbi Yosef answered this. He said this, he literally must have taped it, has the word for word, the exchange that Rabbi Yosef had with people questioning, asking him psak, and following up and questioning. So in this whole, I saw a discussion over there about fasting on dates that the person has yurtzeit. And Rabbi Yosef was very strong that people should fast. He says it's brought down in the Gemara, and being the fact, the way Rabbi Yosef viewed halacha, the fact it was brought down in the Gemara, this idea, that's what the Mechaber is basing it on, that's something you don't knock off so easily. And even though there are different people that are arguing, okay, a person is learning. Let's say a person has abilities, he's in Kollel, takes a day off, he's going to learn on the yurtzeit of his parents. What a tremendous schus. And by fasting, will make it much harder for him to learn. Rabbi Yosef was very strong. No, you shouldn't be mevatel, it's a Gemara, you should fast. If a person was totally weak and wouldn't be able to learn or do anything, then Rabbi Yosef said, no, what can you do? I guess then you're right, you shouldn't fast. But short of that, he was very strongly pushing that the person should fast. Very, very strongly pushing. And it was fascinating, the arguments that Rabbi Yosef was putting down. He was even talking about someone teaching Torah for the rabbim, still very strongly pushing that a person should fast. Now this is an idea, again, probably a lot of people don't even know these halachas well. When do people learn Hilchas Avelos? Unfortunately, the answer is when they're in Aval. And it's a nice thing, some of these organizations will either lend you or even nowadays give you a sefer in Avelos. And okay, so people, go through the halachas then, but it's a rough time, it's a busy time, and lav davka, a person's going through all these halachas and knows this stuff well. But it's an important, it is something, a person who's able to fast is definitely a schus for the nifter. Now let's go through the Mishnah Berurah over here. So let's start with Mem Aleph. Mishnah Berurah writes, first explaining the case, Shemeis Aviv Alima Ba'adar V'Hashana Muberes. Ratzalom, Shemashana Shemeis Bol Aviv L'haya Shana Mubaris. We're talking about when a person was nifter in a regular year, wasn't a leap year. So he's keeping a yurtzeit years later, and we know every so often we have leap years. Das Mechaber Destam Adar Hu Adar Sheni. The das of the Mechaber is, you want to know what Adar is? Stam Adar is Adar Sheni. The default setting always is go to Adar Sheni. As we'll see, that's where we keep Purim. That's where lots of things are done. Mechaber says, you have a question, go with Adar Sheni. The Yeshom Lahepach. And some people say when it comes to the month of Adar, V'nahapachu. You go the opposite way. Right? We say it's Adar Rishon. And Zot the Mishabura, the Gam Yesh Binyanenu Tam. There's actually strong logic for the second way, to go after the first Adar. Why? The Ima V'yanal mitzvahs. Person has a chance to do a mitzvah now or tomorrow. We have a concept, do the mitzvah now. Exactly, don't push it off. So you could keep the mitzvah of yurtzeit now or next month. Zak Chafetz Chaim, what's your shaila? Ein mavir nal mitzvahs. You have a chance to do the mitzvah now. Do the mitzvah now. Huh? Oh, so people argue back. Rabbi, what are you saying? Maybe this is not the mitzvah. So it sounds like from the Chafetz Chaim, no. Both of them are, look, this is Adar, that's Adar. The Ramah would hold it both Adar. If they're both Adar, so then I have a choice of doing the mitzvah today, the mitzvah tomorrow. You're right. If you view it that Adar Rishon's nothing, so then this svara is not a svara. But once you're machshav Adar Rishon to be an Adar, so then the svara is, then you should grab that. Grab the mitzvahs, Rizim Makdimin, Ein Mavir Nal mitzvahs. So that is the idea behind the Mechaber versus the Ramah. Now we're going to explain a little more soon. Let's read the next Mishabura. Mil Yesh Machmirim L'Sanos B'Shneim. So I'm Magen Avram Shemasik Dim Kibala B'Neder L'Sanos Yom Shemis Pol Aviv or Rabbo. Now when it comes to fasting, you could do it one of two ways. You could just accept it as a minhag, or a person sometimes can even make a neder. Right now I'm saying I'm accepting upon myself to do this. It's also, he points out, there's a fast Yom Shemis Pol Aviv or Rabbo. Very interesting. Even people that know about the concept of fasting for a parent may not know there's also a concept of fasting on the yurtzeit of one's Rebbe. Right? We know the Gemara in Bava Metzia talks about the person has an Aveda of his father and Aveda of his Rebbe. Really, a Rebbe comes first. Because a parent might bring a person into this world, but a Rebbe brings a person into the next world. And there's an idea of fasting on the yurtzeit of one's Rav. So the Magen Avram writes, if a person made a neder, okay, I take a vow that I'm going to fast on the yurtzeit of one's father, or Rebbe. Mechuyev lisanos b'shneim. If you accept it as a neder, then you're going to have to do both. Techenu ikar l'dinar. Techin kasav agra. So if a person actually accepted, I accept to fast on the yurtzeit of one's father, you have to keep both, the Magen Avram says. Achein, im lo kiblu ferish, rak mitzvah minhaga. If it's, I'll call more regular cases, probably most people, they didn't make an actual neder, they just keep it, that's their custom. So, sheminig l'sanad yom shemeis b'avav imo. Ein tzarach l'sanad l'olam, akam l'sholem b'han rishon, because it's rami lo shana mubares. If you're doing it as a custom, you only have to do it the way you're accustomed to. So what did you do the first year by a leap year? Because then we say, whatever your custom is, you're going back to the way you did it the first time.
What did you do the first time?
Exactly what you said, Menachem. Okay, but what do you do the first time? I'm a Rav. What should I tell a person that comes to ask me? So the Chafetz Chaim says, you know what you should advise him? She is ana b'shneim. Ideally, you tell the guy, fast by both. If it's hard to fast by both, you should pick Adar Rishon, because that's the minhag in the Ashkenazic world. Okay? So the Chafetz Chaim over here is writing that if a person's relative passed away in a regular year, when it comes to Adar, the Iker Adar, according to the Mechaber, is Adar Sheni. According to the Ramah, it's Adar Rishon. But even in the Ramah's world, for sure if a person's Mekabel it as a nether. But even if he didn't, there's strong basis to fast by both. So,
Is it Ramah saying it's been an Iker, or is it Ramah saying something else? That despite the fact that they're both the same, you're...
well, the Chafetz Chaim gave a svara that there's a svara to picking the first one, because they mavir and al mitzvahs. It seems at the same time, we're not going to say the first is an Iker over the second. It might be better to do the first over the second because they mavir it. But there's still room that the second Adar, you can't push away the second Adar. If you, and thus they're equal, and thus you're going to have to fast by both. So, yes, Harvey, 2 tikkuns, 2 fastings, whatever a person would do 2. Yes.
This is fasting, but is the same Kaddish and the...
So I'm going to get to those. Excellent.
Things go along with it,
so I'll show you once we're here, that last line in the Mishnah Berurah. I was just asked, what about Kaddish and all the things that the Gabbai is nervous of? I'm just going to give you the last line in the Mishnah Berurah. Havelim ein tzrichim litin lo Kaddish el pamachas. Havelim, you're going to have to give him Kaddish one time. We have down for the Amud one time. What that one time is, we'll talk and see. Now, so these are the halachas when it comes to yurtzites. If you're Mechaber man, Adar Sheni. But if you're Ramah, if you're Ashkenazi, then the halacha is you follow Adar Rishon as your go-to month. But if possible, person is physically up to it, fast by both. Now let's skip to happier occasions. Let's talk about bar mitzvahs. We mentioned this to begin with. But let us go to Shulchan Aruch Arachai and Siman Nun Hey. I want to see the Mishnah Berurah over there. There the Ramah writes, Umishanoel ba'adar v'nasa bar mitzvah b'shasa ubar. If a person was born in Adar, but a regular year, but he gets bar mitzvah in a leap year, Eina nasa bar mitzvah ad Adar hasheni. He doesn't become a bar mitzvah only to the second month, Adar Sheni. So l'chora, there's a bomb question here. If you hold, like we said before, the Mechaber, when it comes to yurtzites, there we follow Adar Sheni. So okay, this halacha makes sense. We're consistent. By yurtzites and by bar mitzvahs, the Iker Adar is a second. But the Ramah told me earlier, what we saw earlier, by yurtzites, if you have a choice between the two, you go with Adar Rishon. So how come when it comes to bar mitzvahs, the same Ramah is telling you for bar mitzvah, go with Adar Sheni? Don't forget, we should have the riddle in reverse. All the bar mitzvahs should be dafka this month. Next month we'll have it off, which is actually, good timing, a month before Pesach, to have no bar mitzvahs. Right? If you'd ask, the women of the world, if we could schedule bar mitzvahs all in 1 month this year, should we do it Adar Rishon or Adar Sheni? I think all women would vote, let's do all the social engagements of bar mitzvahs and cooking from Adar Rishon. We'll have the whole Adar Sheni straight into Pesach. Mamish. If I could find a heter for this, I'll be the most popular of in all the Beis Yaakovs.
Probably have a lot of people looking for marriages.
Yes. But, Lamaisa, it's Pum Farkert. We schedule, right? Unfortunately, the Jewish calendar always works against women. But, here, yeah. How's that for Valentine's Day? But, Lamaisa, we're going to have all the bar mitzvahs in Adar Beis, not Adar Rishon. Why? That sounds like an absolute stira to what the Ramah wrote, the Gabi Yertzites. So first let's see what the Mishnah Berurah writes over here, and then we'll extrapolate more. The Mishnah Berurah writes in Mem Hey, in an Asa bar mitzvah, so he's bothered by Bekiyas Kasha. Avagav the Kvar Kasav Mechaber Sif Tes. The Mechaber wrote earlier in Sif Tes, the Chodesh Ibra Bechlal, that when counting a kid for his bar mitzvah, we're counting with it the leap month. Thinking there's a kid who's born in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Shnas Yud Gimel Muberes, Inas bar mitzvah ad Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Don't say he's bar mitzvah after 12 months. No, if he was born in Nisan, the bar mitzvah has to be in Nisan. Don't think he gets off for good behavior because he's 12 years and 12 months. It's not the way it works. But a kid who was born in Rosh Chodesh Adar, I would think he's bar mitzvah in Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon, because that's already Adar. Kamash Malon, this is what the Chavetz Chaim writes. The Adar Rishon lo nikra Adar. Adar Rishon is not called Adar. Ela Chodesh Ibra Mikri. Adar Rishon is a fake. It's not Adar. It's the leap month. Sharei in Kohen Megillah ba'Adar Rishon. We don't read the Megillah in Adar Rishon. V'anam be'inan Yud Gimel Shem Shleimet. You need 13 full years. How you make the kid bar mitzvah in Adar Rishon? Zat the Chavetz Chaim. I'll tell you why you don't do Adar Rishon. Because Adar Rishon is not an Adar. It's a fake. It's the leap month. So this only builds up our question, right? How could the same Ramah then write when it comes to your side? We do go with Adar. Make up your mind. Is Adar Rishon an Adar or not? It's very confusing. We saw clearly by your sites, we were saying Adar Rishon isn't Adar, right? It's really what you asked me before. Right? According to the Ramah, you have to say, and maybe the Mechaber will say, it's not Eim Avir in all mitzvahs, because Adar Rishon doesn't count. I can hear that argument for the Mechaber. But when we were saying the Ramah, we said it has to be the Adar Rishon's an Adar. So I have a choice to do it Adar Rishon, Adar Sheni. Eim Avir in all mitzvahs tells me to do the first one. That's what we understood before by Yertzites. By Yertzites, it was clear that we were counting Adar Rishon as a valid month of Adar. But now here, when it comes to bar mitzvahs, the Chavetz Chaim is writing, explaining the Ramah. You know why we only observe our bar mitzvahs in Adar Beis? Because that's the real Adar. When you ask the real Adar to stand up, Adar Sheni is going to stand up. Adar Rishon is going to take a seat. He's an imposter. That's what the Chavetz Chaim is writing here. So how come by Yertzites? Yes.
Is it possible for the 13th year to be a leap year month?
Yeah.
So what happens in that case?
So
You're born on Adar Aleph. The bar mitzvah would be on Adar Aleph.
yes, that would be.
Yes.
If you're born in Adar Aleph, your bar mitzvah would be in Adar Aleph. I think here what we're debating is only the case of where you're born on a regular year and your bar mitzvah is on a leap year.
Right, so you were born on a leap year. First
Right.
Adar.
Right. Your bar mitzvah is also going to be.
It's also a leap month.
Right.
So you'd still be born.
Right. Because we'll call it, you're born fake month, your bar mitzvah is fake month.
So you can't have bar mitzvahs in the first month.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But the question is, this still sounds like a pretty strong stira. Is Adar Rishon according to the Ramah? Is that an Adar or not? Now, the source of this is the Lavush. If you look over there in the Shar Tzion, Os Mem, the basis of that is the Lavush. Now, according to this Pshat Levush, I don't know, it does sound like a steer. It does not sound, make up your mind, is Adar a month or not a month. But I'll give you, though, another Pshat in Levush. If you look right after there, it's Nachron Levush. The old Kasha Levush, Leinim Yishnod Ba'adar B'Shana Pshuta, B'Shnas Yud Gimel Shalo, he was born in a regular year. But on the Bar Mitzvah year, Nis'avra Hashana, Nis'avra Lo V'lo Nasa Bar Mitzvah Adar Sheni. Now he explains. V'yav Lagav Shem Avir Nal Mitzvahs. Didn't we just say before by Yurtzites that we don't pass up the mitzvahs? Time Achrin Ekahacha. Here there's a different reason. Here the Levush sounds like he is explaining to us and working out the difference between Yurtzites and Bar Mitzvahs. Shari Kishahu Nasa Bar Mitzvah, Nasa Gamkein Bar Onish Bebezdin Shal Mata. When you become a bar mitzvah, it comes with responsibility.
You're giving him a 1 month break.
Right? Now you could get punished. So you give the guy a stay. When it comes to bar mitzvahs, let's push off, the Levush is writing, let's push off the time for the bar mitzvah. Push it off. Show you know about the pshuta. You know what? Yeah, let's push it off. Don't punish the kid earlier. Push it off to Adar Sheni. According to this Levush, it makes sense. Really, by Yurtzites, of course you could count Adar Rishon. He's arguing what he wrote before. Adar Rishon is also called Adar. And really, there is a din of Ein Ma'avir in all mitzvahs when it comes to Yurtzites. But this is not viewed as a din of Ein Ma'avir in all mitzvahs. Rather, this is viewed, according to Levush, as, look, we're helping out the kid, we're having our Rachmanas on him. He's not going to get punished for another month.
So it sounds like this is an unusual case. It's simply because the child's going to end up with the burden of adulthood and the responsibility.
Right.
So give him a break, like a loophole.
Right.
Rather than a clause.
We're saying this specifically by bar mitzvahs. But you're right, by other things, Adar Rishon, 100% valid. That's what he seems to be saying over here. I did find, just this morning, and it troubles me, I found a piece, this wonderful sefer from Mevakshe Torah, this Israeli Torah journal, where it quotes one of Reb Shlomo Zalman's children, the Rav of Tveria, I believe. It's Rav Orbach, that he asked the Kasha Pum Verkehrt. If there's a concept, right? Josh, there's a concept. I have a chance to do a mitzvah today, mitzvah tomorrow. Gotta do it now! I can't think of a greater Ein Ma'avir in all mitzvahs than telling a bar mitzvah boy, wait a month to begin doing mitzvahs. This whole argument, you know what, let's push it off a month, this way you won't get punished. You're pushing off mitzvahs. That's the ultimate Ma'avir in all mitzvahs. So you'll tell me the shtick. No. It's only a Ma'avir if once there is a chiyuv, to pass up the chiyuv. So I'll preempt it, I won't give him a chiyuv. But it's hard to hear. How can we do such a thing? Rav Orbach goes as strong as saying it must be, going back to the argument before, the Adar Rishon is not called an Adar. And therefore you want to know why he's bar mitzvah Adar Sheni? Because that's Adar. His birthday was in Adar, his birthday didn't happen yet. Adar is Adar Beis. That's how he argues. But again, then you run into issues, so what about by Yurtzites? So on both sides, this is a very shver, not simple parsha. It's the Ramah, it's a steer in the Ramah. When it comes to Yurtzites, we're giving you a choice. They both count.
What do you do with the bar mitzvah boy here that is also a kid who has to deal with Yurtzeit as well?
Right. Yeah, those are the toughest shilas, you know? Really, a Yurtzeit has kedima for mafter over bar mitzvah bacher. But those are the things that get Again, we started off with talking about how heated things could be when it comes to. So in general, hold on. In general, with these things, it's best always to be mevater. Now, I want to run through a few other halachas, but look, whether we answer the stira or not, the halacha is the halacha. So we see the Ramah when it comes to bar mitzvahs go with Adar Sheni. We see the Ramah when it goes to Yurtzites, goes ideally with Adar Rishon, but there is an inyan, as we'll expand on in a moment, to fast by both. Now in terms of Purim, why is it that we keep Purim specifically the second Adar, not the first Adar? So if you tell me again that Adar Rishon is nothing, okay, so that's why we keep it Adar Sheni. But there's another Lavush, says what you said, that the reason why we have Purim, again, same type of thing, boy, the women would be happy. Do you know what it is to get so much junk food and so much food a month before Pesach?
It's a different problem.
Right? It's a different problem. But wouldn't it be easier on the leap year to make Purim Adar Rishon? People would be very happy about that. But Zak Lavush, the reason why we don't do that is because so make Geula LaGeula. We want to put one redemption next to another redemption. And the redemption of Purim should be close to the redemption from Mitzrayim. Bayamim Ahim, Bazman Hazeh. And therefore, that's why they're always going to be close to each other. So really, the first Adar is an Adar, according to this teretz. But we push off Purim because we want to put it next to Pesach, even with all the stress that involves. This Tuesday is a special day. Does anyone know why? Don't tell me what you're going to say. This Tuesday is a special day. This Tuesday is Zayin Adar, which happens to be the Yurtzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. But for those people who were involved, and they deserve their own share in the tremendous, tremendous mitzvah of Kavod HaMeis, the Chevra Kedisha, all across the world, there's a minhag to have a Suda. Really, they fast and go through a whole thing, a whole day of tshuva, chas v'shalom, if they did anything wrong to a mace. They observe a tainus on Zayin Adar. So when does a Chevra Kedisha observe this Zayin Adar commemorance? The Zayin Adar fast day, the Zayin Adar Suda. When is that observed? Adar Rishon? Adar Sheni?
It should probably be tied to the Yurtzeit.
Uh-huh.
We go with Yurtzeit goes in. Oh.
So the Mishabura, Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Siman Tov Kuf Pei.
When he was nifter, what was that, leap year?
To go back in the calendar, right? When was Moshe Rabbeinu nifter? Adar Aleph, Adar Rishon.
Clear question: what if someone is nifter in Adar Rishon? Do you?
So we've talked about this. If you nifter Adar Rishon, you keep Adar Rishon. But in terms of Zayin Adar, which really doesn't matter on Moshe's Yurtzeit when it actually was, because we're dealing with the custom of a Chevra Kedisha to keep Zayin Adar. It's already post Moshe Rabbeinu. So there, the Mishabura writes, you do it by the first Adar. First Adar. So practically speaking, those who know that there are Chevra Kedishas, I would assume most Chevra Kedishas here will be keeping Zayin Adar this week, this Tuesday. However, I saw brought down, you have to always have Hak. In Eretz Yisrael, the minhag is to keep Adar Sheni. So the Chevra Kedisha of the Badatz Yerushalayim will not be fasting this Tuesday. Not be having Zayin Adar. Huh?
I fast both of them.
Oh. It's funny, by this halacha, I do not see anyone that takes both. Because it's different than a Yurtzeit. It's not the same thing as a Yurtzeit. Really here, it's commemorating, it's a date. When's the date of Tainus Zayin Adar? So the Mishabura says, Adar Rishon, but there is, in Yerushalayim, people go the other way. And I think you see from here a very important thing. Rabbi Neumann Zatzal used to point this out in the Yeshiva a lot. is even though something sometimes might be clear in the Mishnah Berurah says Adar Rishon, that's not a stira to the fact that in Yerushalayim they're keeping Adar Sheni. Because the Chavetz Chaim wrote Mishnah Berurah as a general halachic sefer, but not to contradict people's personal minhagim. If the min in Yerushalayim was Adar Sheni, you have 100% right. You're not going against the Mishnah Berurah to do Adar Sheni. In Europe, Chavetz Chaim's writing that was the minhag. This is what it is. This is what I'm writing in the sefer. But a person has a clear minhag against the Mishnah Berurah, that's okay. We brought up before our yard site, davening for the Amud. So I have in the bottom of the sheets over here, Shlomo Zalman does talk about davening by both. Shirabim machmir v'avil of ne'ateva gam ba'adar sheni. Poor Gabbai. There are people that have yard sites. Shlomo Zalman talks about the idea of davening by both. Me'ina Gisa I found from Rabbi Yoshev in the previous mentioned sefer of on Hilchas Avelos from Rav Kook. So there Rabbi Yoshev clearly says you only need to do it by the first. Davening for the Amud, only the first. You don't have to do the second. For an Ashkenazi person, just daven by the first Adar. So they bring in the sefer. There was a point the person hacked him about doing it. He says, okay, you could daven by both. And Rav Kook is masber, very interesting thing. And it's also important for Gabbayim and for people in the crowd too. Rabbi Yoshev was insistent. This is his perspective. He says, davening for the Amud, for many people, is not simple. Most people are not natural chazanim. Anyone knows Rabbi Yoshev, he had a taste for music. Most people are not natural chazanim. Chash, you have to hold the tzibur hostage when you have your site. Okay, so you do that, hopefully, as least as possible. But because the shul's mazel, that your parent, this person's parent was nifter, in Adar, so you're going to daven twice? No. Adar Rishon, just once. The second guy who was hawking him, he happened to be a chazan. He was a chazan. He also says, okay, you're a barachi, you can do it twice. But really, it's a balance. The Iker din really also says once. You're going to push, but I want to be ma'achmir and do twice. Okay, let's wait. There is an element of, some inyan of davening twice, but there's also other elements. How about weighing the fact that people have to sit through your davening? Now, unfortunately, usually it's the chazanim who take more advantage than others. People don't realize that, their davening may not be the most pleasant thing for others. Well, Yoshev says, take note, do it once. Have rachmanas. I saw Yoshev gives another fascinating psak. We know there's an idea, and it's a big shayla in halacha. Even if you put aside the fasting on a person's yurtzeit, is a person on the day of a person has yurtzeit for a parent, is he allowed to go to a wedding? Very, very, very not pashut. People don't think of these things. Again, this is another one of the Hilchas Avelos, which unfortunately people may miss, is that the day that a person has yurtzeit, really it's years later. It's a different day. Okay, talk about fasting, but really a person should not go to a wedding. So the question was posed to Rabbi Yoshev. Okay, so let's say in this situation, a person has yurtzeit, he keeps Adar Rishon. What about Adar Sheni? Magen Avraham did talk about fasting by both. Talk about maybe saying Kaddish by both. It's not hurting anybody. So, what about that? So, Rabbi Yoshev, I have it in print here on the bottom. Sha'av pi shegam ba'adar sheni gam kin tzarich lomer Kaddish. You're going to say Kaddish by Adar Sheni. Makol makom ulachal zechasna yesh lahakol. Rabbi Yoshev was ready to be mekel for him to go to a chasna on the day of the yurtzeit if it was an Adar Beis when he already kept Adar Rishon. Fascinating. Two other quick halachas. Let's say a person has a contract, and you make the contract, you finish the job by Adar. Which Adar? So this is brought in Shulchan Aruch, Kosher Mishpat, Siman Mem Gimel, as well as Yerodea, Siman Reish Chaf, that Mechaber Ramah over there seem to say it's Adar Rishon, because there you go with the language of people. When people say Adar, what do they mean by Adar? They mean the first Adar. It's a due date. When's the construction going to be finished? Adar. We go to Adar Rishon. Of course, there is a Bach and a Shach that argue over there and say, no, Adar Sheni, Stam Adar, people are thinking Purim, they're thinking about excitement. So, okay, have a machlokas there. So, what basically emerges from the share, before I get to one last halacha, is you have to know, don't just assume, well, for this halacha, the rabbi told me I go with Adar Rishon, so I assume for this. No. You have to know everything can be different. It's complicated, right? These nuances in our calendar only make for things more trouble, more challenge, and a person should ask a shayla by each of these individual things what they should do. But let's end off on a happy note. Someone asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky the following shayla. Exactly. Halacha is Mishnechnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. One nafkamina of Marbim B'Simcha, besides the fact you should be happy and jolly every day, is there's actual halachic nafkaminas. A person has an elective surgery. You could do it now, or you could do it in the summer. You could do it Chodesh Adar, Chodesh Av. Shulchan Aruch says you should avoid doing things in the Chodesh Av. Chodesh Av is known as bad mazel. If you have any time of the year to schedule an elective surgery, do it specifically in Adar. Befrekt someone to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, does that idea of mazel Adar, to do a surgery, to do something specifically planned to do in Adar, does that apply to Adar Rishon? And Chaim Kanievsky said yes. We should all be zocha to a month full of happiness, joy, and just flow in from Adar to Nisan Asidin Likol.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week. The Ezra Hashem next week we might do a Torah personality. Tune in for that.
So I have a question.
I'm thinking of going back generations. It would be very, very interesting.